Alright, so why is Thierry Mugler Pure Malt such a popular fragrance? Now let's talk about this. Like we get this rich, succulent, hopsy, woodsy dry down with just a little bit of a boozy feel to it. And it's like they talk about how they take the Amen and they put it in whiskey barrels. And, well, it's got the Amen matrix to it somewhat. You know, that kind of warmth and that richness. But instead of using this chocolatey mocha with patchouli and this oriental vanilla feel, they use a more boozy, more of a whiskey smell. And now, you know, the peat and the woodsy notes in this fragrance actually work perfectly with it, because on one side you have the tropical fruits in the opening, and not even just the opening, they stick around throughout the whole fragrance and they give it this fresh kind of feel. But at the same time we get this kind of a rich whiskey smell, which honestly is enchanting. It is an amazing scent. It's really one of those fragrances that thank God it was brought back, because it's definitely one of those ones a lot of people would spend $10,000 a bottle if they could. It's just that good. And, you know, honestly, if I were to take several of the best fragrances made, I would probably say Hane Mori HM, Thierry Mugler Pure Malt, and Guerlain Abi Rohe, and Body Koros would get that list, because these are not budget types of scents that try to push you into buying it, you know, and they're not the kinds of scents that they cut corners around like money grabs. This is truly, I mean, a lot of the Thierry Mugler scents are money grabs, and a lot of times you'll see people talking about like Thierry Mugler original, or, you know, a lot of these and saying, yeah, it's good for a certain occasion. Well, Pure Malt is one of those scents that's just phenomenal, and women love that scent. That's one thing about it. It definitely has that appeal. And it's not like you can pull one note out of the fragrance. It's a very complex brew. And it has a lot of richness, and it has a sweetness to it. But, you know, like the succulent fruits really give it this nice, transparent, very invigorating, kind of chill smell that a lot of people can enjoy. And, you know, then they put in the whiskey barrels, basically to get some woodsy notes to it. But it's a very good, rich, kind of almost boozy scent. Like I was saying before, this definitely is the king of the gourmands. And, you know, like Hane Mori HM is your ice cream sundae gourmand, where you have chocolate and vanilla and mint, and sometimes you get chocolate, sometimes you get mint, sometimes you get kind of a woodsy vanilla. It just depends on the temperature and everything, because Hane Mori HM can do anything. It's really one of those wild card scents. And Body Koros is a very inert kind of gourmand, where you have this incense and eucalyptus, which gives an exotic touch, and then you start to get a touch of this warm vanilla that gives it this richness, and it's like an elegant scent. It's Body Koros is more of the mature kind of fragrance. It's very rich, and like Ted Lapin's Black Soul has similar reviews and similar quality in the fact that, you know, both have very similar looking bottles, and both will say Hane Mori you know, they'll say that Le Male has similarities to Body Koros at times, or they'll say Body Koros has similarities to basically, you know, Lolita Olympica, but Body Koros doesn't have the anise, and Body Koros has more of the rich, inert ingredients, which kind of give it a different tone. Just like Burberry Brit and Armani Code are totally different smells, because Armani Code has more of the powdery spice, and Burberry Brit has richer woods. And so if you have one or the other, you're going to find that maybe they smell similar, but there's going to be differences here, because the Burberrys definitely have aromatic, woodsy spice. And, you know, then in Burberry London, they have that wine that's kind of sweet, woodsy, with just, you know, some warmth to it. And then you have the Burberry Brit, which is more of the powdery wood. And then you have London, and you have, you know, the Beat and a lot of the modern stuff that is much more in the fresh category. And, you know, this is where, like, a lot of these companies kind of define themselves. Like, the Burberrys have very preppy scents and preppy good smells. But now, you know, nowadays, I think their new scents are decent. They're not bad smelling, but they're nothing worth, like, collecting, in my opinion. Like, if they have a Burberry London limited edition, it doesn't have the same qualities as the old. Don't even bother with that. Because, you know, a lot of these companies, they get big and then they decide, okay, we're selling enough, now we're going to start mass producing all the classics. We're going to make a different version, sucker people into buying it. And so this is why Thierry Mugler Pure Malt and Body Koros and Hanemori HM and Guerlain Abi Rohe and a lot of the niche fragrances tend to be much better, because they're not about making money, they're about making the fragrance. And so, like in Thierry Mugler, you get this very European style in the fragrance because of the warmth to it and the rich ingredients, whereas American fragrances tend to be fresher and more aquatic. And now the British fragrances tend to be, you know, you could have some rich woods and spice and tea and, you know, a variety, but it tends to be like a fresh woodsy fragrance. And the Italian fragrances tend to be green, balmy, you know, very spicy. That's just one thing that they tend to be defined as, but it's not always the case. Like Armani is honestly more of an Americanized brand, and Jean Paul Gaultier is very Americanized, and Le Male is extremely Americanized. Even though it has the French gourmand culinary kind of style, they use stuff to make it a very fresh, soapy kind of smell. And, you know, it kind of smells synthetic, whereas a lot of the French fragrances, now this is where we go next. I'm going to get into the French sense. And the French tend to use rich ingredients that create a wonderful dry down, regardless of whether you like the top notes or not. And I got a knock at the door, so I'll be